Tēnā kātou katoa. Ko rangi tautau te maunga, ko hauraki te moana, ko tainui te waka, ko Ngāti Koata te iwi, ko whakātu te marae, ko kākati te whare te tupuna, ko Puklowski toku whānau, ko Dauniika toku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. As I said, my name is Dauniika. I am a registered member of the Ngāti Koata iwi. My great-great-grandmother was adopted by a member of Ngāti Koata, and I've got her to thank for my links to the iwi. I live in Tamaki Makaurau. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, Madeline, and I'm getting married next year, and I've got 2 stepchildren that I'll be inheriting. I work as a company secretary. I've got vast experience working for boards of directors and trusts and charities. I've got my own company, which I run providing support to boards in an administrative function. Earlier this year, I completed the Institute of Directors Company Directors course, and I'm a chartered member of the Institute of Directors.
Why have you decided to accept a nomination for this year's Ngāti Koata Trust Board elections?
I've decided to accept the nomination partly because I'd like to be able to give back to the Trust as a beneficiary. My father's also a beneficiary, and he's received some grants towards some health, which I think is amazing that it offers that kind of support, and I'd like to use my skills and experience to be able to give back through the governance function. It's also, it's coming full circle for me. During my kind of due diligence into seeing if this would be a good fit for me to become a trustee, I've researched the Ngāti Koata Trust and the history of the Ngāti Koata iwi, and I didn't realise that they had descended from the Tainui and Kawhia, which I found really amazing because I used to live in Raglan in Whaingaroa when I was growing up. And I'd always thought of Tainui as kind of my own links, because we'd had such a strong bicultural upbringing living in Raglan and had been really involved with the marae there. To find out that Ngāti Koata had descended from Tainui and from that area was a really welcome surprise and a bit of a eureka moment to understand why I feel such a connection and a draw to the Ngāti Koata iwi. And then, of course, having my great-great-grandmother as being adopted, she was the whāngai and then she was formally adopted as an adult. Just the generosity of the people, I want to be able to be generous and give back in that same way.
What are the skills and experience you will bring to the board?
So my experience in governance and with boards and trusts and my official training through the Institute of Directors is going to be my main strength. But also the diversity that I'll bring as a Pākehā and as someone residing in Tamaki Makaurau. I've read a lot of research about diversity of thought and that people with different backgrounds and upbringings can help to disrupt unconscious biases and groupthink. And I like to think that I'll be able to contribute in that way. Even I haven't grown up in a te reo setting and I haven't grown up in whakātu or Nelson, I've got probably a different outlook and a different view. But I understand that the fundamentals of a good trust are respect and trust in a trust between the fellow trustees. So I'd use all of that knowledge and research and experience to just be a good governor and someone that contributes and someone that can constructively challenge and participate to develop group decisions. You know, as a trust, you're part of the group. You're not a one, you're a team. So that's my understanding.
What do you believe are the biggest concerns facing our iwi today, and how do you think the board can best address these concerns?
This is a big question. I think any kind of business or trust or organisation have big concerns in terms of the political and geographical view. Obviously, inflation rising and how that impacts investments is one of the big ones. environmental impacts, being climate change, sea warming, and how that affects fisheries, how that affects the native land that Ngāti Koata looks after. I think the Trust, just having knowledge of those things and having a view to the global landscape and what's impacting them, and always being forward thinking, will always help to mitigate those kinds of risks. I also think socially, there's an ageing population, and the iwi has a duty to look after all of its members. It's part of their values, so it's how best to serve them, as well as the young mokopuna and the youth that are growing up. And I think the boards, they're doing a great thing in the grants that they're doing, the education and the health and sports, but there may be further areas they can do to develop the older members of the Trust. I think also just being continuously innovative and forward-looking is important, and as a Trust, having strategy on your agenda and consistently reviewing your strategy and measuring objectives as to how you're achieving those strategies is very important. Cyber issues are a big risk going forward as well, with the digitalisation of the entire world. That's going to impact the Trust in some ways, and just being aware of that and knowing what the risks may be is also important. Having policies and procedures in place, and oversight, compliance, all of those things that good governors do.
If you are elected, what is something you would like to achieve personally as a trustee of Ngāti Koata Trust in your 3-year tenure?
Personally, I'd like to challenge myself. This is a learning journey for me, te ao Māori and Māori governance. It's something that I'm interested in and I'd like to better understand. So this would be an amazing position for me to be able to really dig my teeth in and make a difference. Selfishly, I'd like to be able to practice my te reo and improve that, and this would be a really good setting and forum for me to be able to do so. I'd also like to better understand the treaty settlements and how they, the history of those and how negotiations went, and I think this is a really good way to be able to understand that as well. And also to be able to better understand, as I said earlier, the history of my tipuna ko Herenata, my great-great-grandmother, and getting to know the area where she grew up and she came from a lot better.